So this video tutorial, we're going to go through the full creation of a legal document and automation of it. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along. This might go on for some time, but I think by the end of it, you'll be able to work with and take documents that you find and automate them. So this is the document we're going to automate. So it's a statutory declaration relating to the Landlord and Tenant Act 1954. And it'll be a really nice document for us to go through and automate. So let's come back to that in a second, and let's go and find our Docassemble part. Okay, so we're here ready to sign into Docassemble. We can sign in, and if we go to Playground, that's where we're going to create this. So I'd start through by adding a new project. So by clicking here, Manage Projects, and then Add New Project, and then we'll call this one Stat Deck. It doesn't like it if you have spaces, so just if you concatenate or tie up the words together, that's probably the best way to go. And then we'll go into this project. If you do that, it gives you a template document, which is somewhat useful, but we're going to delete most of this out, so we don't need to go and see that. So let's start from here. Let's delete the bottom of this out, and then let's stick with this. So the title, let's call it Statutory Declaration. Let's put a bit of those in there, and then let's take the comment out for the time being. So once we've set up that, we'll come back to this later. Let's just save that so it's ready for future parts. So the way that you should approach your Docassemble drafting is to work from the precedent itself to start with. Let me pull this over a second. Okay, let's try and split screen it so it looks nice. Okay, so we've got the two split screens here. That looks lovely. Great. So you'll see that the form is designed here to be typed in, which is a very old way of thinking about things. So what we're going to do is insert the placeholders that Docassemble will be able to inject into this later on. So if we know that this part here, this is the declarant's name. So the declarant will usually type their name or write their name into that part, but we don't need to do that. So the way you insert a placeholder or a variable into Docassemble is to use the curly braces, and this is a double curly brace here. This is pretty common in a lot of programming languages about how you insert things in. So let's go for that. And we knew that this was the declarant, so let's call that the declarant there. And then we know that we're going to ask for the address. So do our curly braces, and then if we write address, but actually let's make it clearer as to whose address that is. Declarant address. Okay, one of the first things you'll need to pick up is that your variable names need to be one word. So if there is a space, it's good practice just to use an underscore between, or you could call it declarant address underscore, or like that. Or as we get into more complex sort of object types, you might find that it'd be declarant.address, which has particular meaning, but we'll come on to that in a later video. So name of guarantor, tenant guarantor. So let's do this. Let's do the same here. So propose. So this part here, this would be a good one to have. A property or maybe actually premises might be better for that one. So, okay. So I think that makes sense. There's one thing that you can do with this as well is that the formatting, we usually like to have the font in capitals. So we'll do all caps and we'll do bold. So you can come like that. And same for this one, font, all caps and bold. That will work very nicely. So let's save this, and then we'll come back to it in a bit. So, okay, so we're now ready to upload the template to Docassemble. So go to Template, go to Browse, and then it's the docx extension that you need. You must save your files as docx files for this to work nicely. So let's choose that and press Upload. Then we can go back to the playground. So we need to choose the final question, so the endpoint, so it knows what document to produce. So if you click on the templates for working with a docx template, then press Insert, it will come in there. We can delete out these bits about doesn't meet your approval. We can ignore that for the time being, but let's give the attachment a name. Let's call it, we'll just mirror this. And then we'll take that, we'll give that the file name. So here, rather than letter template.doc, we need to actually use the template that we just uploaded. And the way to do that is to, click on this here. And we'll give them the two options. So let's save that. So if we press save and run right now, we'll get an error. I think what it's looking for is, okay, it's not liking something here. So let's go back. It doesn't like the part address. Okay, so the one that was giving us the error is this one here. So let's do that. Let's save it again. Okay, folders, templates. Let's delete that template out. Then let's browse, let's find it again, and re-upload it. Great, so we can go back to our template, and let's press save and run. So no questions, that's fine. So that's not an error that we can try and fix. We can come back to, this is telling us that we need to actually get on and build the document. Okay, so once our parts are loaded, let's insert this. So we can remove this part, as we don't need the sub-question, but we do need to have a question. And let's press save on there. And then rather than this part saying letter template, we need to insert the stat.dex document. Let's press save. Okay, great. So we should also make this question here. It's useful to make this question mandatory. So mandatory is true. So it will always ask this question at the end. So what the cool thing about Docassemble is that it allows the variables that we defined to come up as undefined names within our playground. So we need to go and ask the relevant questions to generate that information. So the first question that we write, and this is the syntax for that, is who is the declarant. And then if we go here, we can choose the fields, and then we can have name. In fact, let's call it declarant name and declarant address. Now we're going to assign values to this, so these will just be text fields. So if we click on there, the declarant will be defined by what's typed into the declarant name box, and the declarant address will be defined there. So that's the first question. So let's see what happens if we save and run that. So let's do Jermaine Smith, and let's do made up address. East End Road, Bristol, PS. It's not a real address. Okay, so we've got to an error here because the rest of the parts are not defined, but you can see the idea of how things will go. So let's fill in the rest of the questions. Okay, let's press save and see how many of these clear. Okay, we've got one more date. Question, what is the commencement date? Then fields, commencement date, and that needs to have a tag. Let's make it nice and consistent. Okay, so we've now created our first interview. So you can see that we've just asked a few questions as we've gone through, and we can save that. But now let's just save and run it. So we can then, I'll have the declarant name, and let's copy a made up address for me. So what will make this better is to actually remove that and define them as the tenant, and then define them as a landlord. Okay, let's think about that. Looks pretty good to me. Excellent. And then let's check the Word document version. Okay, so that worked as I intended it to. And if we go back and look at the PDF again, some changes that I might make to this in the future is probably just putting an extra comma there, and maybe some of the bits here. So can't yet do the signature part because this is a stat dec to be signed in a particular way, but certainly for other documents you could add signatures in if that would be helpful, and perhaps I'll show that in the next quick example.